Can I bring committee to order, please? Thank you. Very cold January evening, but a warm welcome to those attending and to our viewers watching live on the Council YouTube channel, Hillingdon, London. My name is Councillor Higgins and I'm chairman of this committee. Details of business to be considered today are shown on the agenda, copies of which are accessible online under the live broadcast. If you click there, you can get other documents. For those present in the room and intending to speak, please note that you will be filmed and any statement you make will be recorded and made public. A reminder to anybody speaking today that your voice will only be audible online when the microphone is switched on. We're not expecting any fire drills, so if a fire alarm goes off, please follow officers out of the building. Mobile and tablet devices, for those with mobiles, can you either switch them to silent or switch them off? Otherwise, you'll see many of us are using computers to look at our agendas. First, I'm going to introduce our attendees. I'd like to say Councillor Adam Bennett, my Vice Chairman, welcome. Councillor Burrows, Councillor Roy Chimdall, Councillor Hector Gohill, Councillor Elizabeth Gaelic and Sans Sapori. Welcome, Councillor. Nice to see you. On my officers today is Ed Loughton, sitting to my right. He's an Area Planning Service Manager, then Chris Brady, then Owen Concannon. I've got your name now. Not a problem. Fluently. Dr. Alan Tilley is Transport Planning Development Team Man. That's the first time anybody's ever told me to speak up, but I will. I will speak louder. Is that better? That's okay. We go. Okay. I'm not going to start from the beginning, though. Okay, I promise you that. Officers, and then I've got Dr. Tilley, Natalie Faircup, Legal Advisor, and Ryan Dell here, Democratic Services. Welcome and thank you all for coming this evening. We will go to the agenda straight away. Apologies for absence, Ryan?
Yeah, we have no apologies. Okay.
Declaration of interest. Any matters coming before this meeting? Anybody? No? Do we agree the minutes of the previous meeting? Agreed. Thank you very much. There's no matters that have been notified are urgent, and I confirm that all items are in part 1, and nothing in part 2 for private. So we will straight away go ahead with the first petition item, which is 47 Sweetcroft. Chris, would you like to take us around that? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Hopefully my presentation skills are not too rusty after having a bit of time away. Item 6 relates to an application for planning permission at 47 Sweetcroft Lane. The development comprises of the demolition of the existing dwelling and the construction of a 2-storey new house consisting of 6 number bedrooms with a basement. In terms of history, the site was subject to an application in November 2023. This application was withdrawn prior to determination. Here is a location plan with the site denoted within the red shaded area. The existing 2-storey dwelling is located on the south side of Sweetcroft Lane, accessed via a narrow access road between numbers 45A and 49. The property itself sits to the rear of the properties which are directly fronting Sweetcroft Lane.
Yeah.
And amongst a cluster within a backland setting such as numbers 31, 35, 39 and 43. As illustrated here, the site is located within the Hillingdon Court Parks Area Special Local Character and is subject to a tree protection order area and is also located within a critical drainage area. You will also note that there is designated green belt to the south of the site. Here is a site location and existing block plan. Some members may recall the site directly adjacent to the application site, which is number 51. This was subject to an application for the demolition of the existing dwelling and the replacement with 2 times family-sized dwellings and a modest extension of the road in Portman Gardens. The application was approved by members and some members of this committee on the 1st of February 2022. Here is a site location. Sorry, here is some of the existing drawings. So this is the existing elevations as shown on screen. The existing property is 2 stories. Here's an existing floor plan. In terms of the proposal, the application would result in the replacement of the existing dwelling with a larger 6-bed property. As you can see from this block plan, although greater in bulk, scale and massing, the proposed dwelling would be constructed within a spacious plot and appears to be proportionate when compared with some of the other properties within Sweetcroft Lane. Some of the images will demonstrate that later in the presentation. In terms of the footprint, the building would measure 236 square metres. Whilst this is a significant uplift in comparison to the existing dwelling, it must be assessed in the context of the overall site area, which measures 1,767 square metres, and also the footprint of the surrounding buildings. As illustrated on this proposed site plan, the footprint of the building at ground level would be comparable, if not less, than the neighbouring property at number 45. The building is set away from the neighbouring boundaries and would therefore appear to be proportionate and in keeping with its setting. You will also note that the 45-degree line of sight, which has been drawn from the nearest habitable room windows at the adjacent property, have not been breached. So that is... Sorry, this doesn't come up on there, does it? You'll see the 45-degree angle splay. It's completely unbreached from the rear elevation return line. Here is a drawing illustrating the proposed developments within the setting, including the approved development on the adjacent site number 51, so that that was the application I referred to earlier, having been approved back in 2022. The pink area that you see on the left-hand side is the slight extension to the road on Portman Gardens. You've got the 2 family-sized dwellings to the north and south of that site. Turning to the floor plans, the development incorporates a basement which would measure 292 square metres. That is shown on the screen now. Whilst the basement is not insignificant, and there has been some opposition to the quality of the basement impact assessment following the public consultation, a secondary report was commissioned by the applicant to ensure that matters relating to structural integrity and drainage have been considered. As part of the public consultation process, it was brought to officers' attention that there had been some reports of subsidence which contradicted a statement within the report referring to the absence of subsidence within this local area. However, officers can confirm that concerns or works relating to subsidence, which are matters for building regulations, are unlike planning applications, as these records are not publicly available. As such, the information could not have been included within such reports. Officers have since clarified that the report is based on an assessment of ground geology and provides a methodology for the construction of the basement. The report concludes that the basement can be constructed without the potential to disturb the structural integrity of surrounding properties, and that there is no increased risk of fluvial or pluvial flooding. Adequate enhancements to drainage are proposed in the form of a natural attenuation and through an underground attenuation tank. Here is a ground floor plan. You have the first floor plan, second floor plan, which shows some accommodation to be set within the roof. You've got a roof plan. Here we have an elevation. The proposed height of the new dwelling would be 9.3 metres. This is a reduction from the previous 10.7 metres, which was proposed as part of the previous application. The depth of the building has also been reduced in comparison to the previous scheme by 1.3 metres. These reductions result in a crown roof which has been significantly reduced and a bulk scale and massing which is proportionate within its setting. Having reviewed the built form within the local area, there are examples of replacement dwellings and extended dwellings which have a similar bulk, scale and mass. As such, a reason for refusal relating to the development appearing out of character and therefore harmful to both the character and appearance of the street scene and wider area special local character would not be reasonable. I'll just take you through some more of the elevations. So here's an east and west elevation, effectively the side elevations. You have a section here, as the report states, the basement is not insignificant. The key point for us is whether or not the basement impact assessment accurately represents what the policy requires, and that is that the structural integrity in and around the development as constructed would be safeguarded. There's a methodology within the basement impact assessment that demonstrates that, and that there would not be an increase in flood risk. The site is located within flood risk zone 1, which indicates that there isn't a risk of fluvial or pluvial flooding, and in which case this development would not result in an increase in fluvial or pluvial flooding. So therefore, in terms of structural integrity and flooding, it is considered to be policy compliant. Here is a proposed landscape drawing. Whilst the site is located within a tree preservation area, there are no trees within the site itself which are subject to a specific individual preservation order. Unlike the previous application, this proposal is supported by a tree survey which indicates that 29 of the 31 trees located on the site at the moment would be retained. Both trees to be felled are category C. Therefore, there is no objection to their removal, and the landscaping drawing indicates that significant landscaping enhancements would be secured. In addition to the 2 felled trees, there would be some crown works and lopping, which the council's landscaping officer has raised no objection to. A tree retention condition is to be imposed to ensure that those trees stated to be retained are actually retained. In terms of B&G, an assessment has been submitted and concludes that there would be a shortfall of 0.0816 credits to meet the on-site 10% net gain required by the framework. There is some ambiguity around whether the pond, which is illustrated in the pre-development metric, exists at present, as it was not identified during the site visit and when it was undertaken. Now, just because it wasn't identified at the time doesn't necessarily mean it's not there. There is a potential for it to have dried out, in which case we wouldn't have been able to view it at the time. Notwithstanding that, the shortfall in the on-site provision, even with that pond included within the existing pre-development metric, is very minor. The framework advocates that a condition could be used to increase the on-site 10%, the requirement for the on-site 10% net gain, and we have saw fit to impose a condition which requires an updated metric and the provision of 10% net gain on site. In the absence of a 10% net gain on site, the condition would also allow for the purchase of off-site credits, and the framework allows for that, and that would make up the shortfall of what isn't going to be provided on site. I'll just take you through some of the photos. So it's slightly difficult to see, but there is a red edge outline around the development site. You'll see that there are a number of large and varying designed properties within this area. One key characteristic is the length of the gardens that you'll see. Here are some of the site photos of the existing property. This is a photo of the neighbouring property. Here we have a view of the site which is just in between the two houses taken from Portman Gardens. This is the view from the gardens and from the rear windows of the existing property. View from the upper floor, rear facing windows. View from within the garden itself. This is a view of the access road. The access road is approximately 87 metres deep. It serves only the existing property and is approximately 5 metres wide. So here's just a couple of photos from the street scene, just in terms of comparable scale, bulk and mass. So these are properties that all directly front face Sweetcroft Lane. This is a site which received planning permission for a larger scale property. Again, similar bulk scale and massing here. Another example, slightly closer to the entrance of Sweetcroft Lane. Another example here. I'll come to those in a moment. Just in terms of the conclusion of the assessment, the application proposes the demolition and replacement of a single-family dwelling house. The principal development is therefore considered to be acceptable, and there is no intensification of the use of the site, which would only come from additional dwellings being constructed. Whilst greater in bulk scale and massing, the submission demonstrates that the new dwelling would appear to be proportionate within its setting. The design of the development would not appear out of character within the street scene or the wider area special local character. The applicant has submitted sufficient detail in the form of technical documents to evidence that the construction of the development would not result in harm to neighbouring properties, the local highway network, or environmental considerations such as flooding. Whilst the concerns raised during the consultation process are duly noted, the proposal accords with the development plan. Therefore, the application is recommended for approval, subject to the conditions appended to the committee report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chris. That was very thorough. Thank you. Okay, so it's a petition item. So we have Dr. Havani. Is that how I pronounce it? If it isn't, I forgive. Thank you. If you'd like to come to the table. You'll have a traffic light system here, sir, which is in front of you. So you get green, amber and red. When it's amber, you've got 1 minute, and when it's red, please don't be offended, but I will stop you. Okay? So whenever you press the button in front of you on the microphone, the timer will start. That's it. There you go. Just press it so it turns red.
Can you make sure the microphone is?
Is that better? You'll have to speak up.
Chair, you will note from the number of signatories that there has been extensive interest over this application. Unfortunately, many of the issues that we raised have remained unresolved in the officer's report. Bulk, scale and massing are out of character for the area. It's a 3-story dwelling. The basement, ground floor, first floor and second floor accommodation, and the total footprint of that will be 3 times the current footprint. The height will be 9.3 meters, which is much higher than the existing property, and it will be higher than the property next door, which is number 43. So there will be asymmetry between the two, and it will not respect the roof line. In addition, it is planned that the property will be only 1 meter away from, there will only be 1 meter gap between the two properties. So you will have the effect of 2 properties massing over each other, which goes against the character of the area, which is that of detached houses which are spaced apart. The officer's report says that the bulk and scale is mitigated by the deep nature of the site, but the dwelling itself is at the front of the site. In the neighboring properties, the neighboring properties which face the front of number 47 will lose some privacy because of the height and bulk, and also very large first floor windows which are planned. Number 45A is especially affected because it's a bungalow for a disabled lady, and it's set back from the main street, and it's therefore much closer to number 47 than the other houses are. The bedroom on this ground floor will be directly seen by the large windows from the first floor of the proposed property. Number 53 is a residential care home where the back garden is used as an amenity for its residents who will be overlooked. The basement is huge, 300 square meters, and our concerns are to do with subsidence and flooding. Many houses in the neighbourhood have been affected by significant subsidence and have required underpinning and monitoring. With the basement that's been planned, there is added risk of further ground instability and subsidence, not only affecting the proposed property, but also other properties around there. The basement impact assessment doesn't refer to this. It does say there is a risk of surface water flooding with ponding, but the key questions are left for a design stage, and we think that this should be addressed now before it becomes a problem later on. Next slide, please. Yeah. Sweetcroft Lane is narrow, and especially at that point, there is a bend and there is no space for parking anywhere. You can see the arrow left, the yellow arrow pointing to the driveway, and the road itself is quite narrow. It tends to be busy because it is a cut through for Long Lane, and at peak times traffic is stationary on that road. The enormous demolition and construction work that is required will require continuous heavy vehicle movement and turning in and out, which will result in traffic backing up and restricting access to residents. Just the excavation and the removal of the soil for the basement will require 100 lorries. This is why some London boroughs require a construction and management plan as a prerequisite where there is a basement, such as Richmond and Kingston. And our concern is that if it is left for afterwards, we will have no sight or input into it, and we'll have to live with the consequences of that for 12 or 18 months. Final point, you can see the entrance to number 47 is narrow driveway. The officer's report says that it's fit for purpose, but we are concerned...
Sorry, 5 minutes. Thank you. Thank you very much. Does anybody have any questions for the petitioner? Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Doctor, as well for your petition and for clearly setting out your concerns. I just wanted to check for context, do you live in one of the adjacent properties that borders the property in the application site in question?
Yes, indeed.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
Sure. But the petition had 41 signatures, which included a wide area around, and this will be the first basement. We've seen pictures of other big properties, none of which have a basement. This will be the first basement to be built in the north part of Hillingdon. And so therefore the concern is much more, especially with the subsidence.
I think we'll find that there are other basements in the north of the borough. We've passed a few of those. Councillor Chandell.
Thank you, Chair. You're making a point about the bottom picture, I believe.
Yeah.
But these access roads, they've been like that since the year dot, have they? They haven't changed, they haven't got bigger or smaller, have they?
No.
Thank you.
Councillor Gaelic.
Oops.
Thank you, Chair. Just a question. You mentioned that there are subsidence. Do you know how many exactly occurrences, and are they recent? And do you know if those people signed the petition? Are they included?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch that.
No, occurrences of subsidence.
Yeah.
Do you know exactly how many there were? And
yeah.
Were they recent or?
Yeah. I know it, well, certainly in the group that we, I mean, I don't know about everybody in North Hillingdon, but certainly in the group that we have, there are at least 7 properties which have subsidence, and they're all current, so all of them have underpinning, they're being monitored. It seems that that area is susceptible to clay settlement, and because of the hot weather and the drier summers we have now, it's much more, so it's become accelerated, and that is one of the reasons why we were concerned about the basement.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Does anybody else have a question? No. Thank you very much. You did very well. Thank you. If you'd like to take your seat. Okay, now I'll call the applicant or agent, Mr. Sadhu. As I said earlier, you have 5 minutes. Green 4, amber 1, and red, and I will stop you. Please do not be offended. Thank you.
Okay. Good evening. My name is Amr Sidhu. I'm a senior from GA Design, and we are the agent for this planning application, and we'll be speaking on behalf of the applicant for 47 Sweetcroft. Apologies. Better? Thank you. We would like to start off by thanking the local planning authority and the officers for their time, consideration and cooperation on this extensive planning journey. The proposal has been through a long and careful design process, guided directly by the Council's pre-application advice and subsequent officer feedback. The scheme before you tonight is not the original proposal, but the outcome of meaningful revisions specifically made to address previous concerns and mitigate harm to the local context, to try and uphold, as well as improve upon, the high standard of housing that is currently present in the community. The site is located within a developed area of the borough, where the replacement of an existing dwelling is acceptable in principle. This was clearly confirmed during pre-application discussions and feedback. Importantly, the proposal does not introduce additional units, does not subdivide the plot, and does not constitute inappropriate backland development. It remains a single-family home on a large plot of approximately 1,800 square metres, consistent with the established residential character of Sweetcroft Lane. A key concern raised previously related to excessive massing, footprint and roof form. These points have been directly and demonstratively addressed. The depth of the building has been reduced, improving relationships with the neighbouring properties. The overall mass and bulk have been softened, avoiding a boxy, overbearing appearance. The roof design has been fundamentally revised, significantly reducing the crown element and introducing a more traditional pitched form in keeping with neighbouring dwellings or nearby dwellings. The architectural language has been deliberately reworked to reflect the Edwardian character evident along Sweetcroft Lane. The proposal now sits comfortably within the area of special local character, respecting established building lines, scale and proportions. Neighbouring impact has been carefully assessed, with the following design parameters addressed with careful consideration. Separation distances have been maintained and in some cases improved. There is no unacceptable loss of daylight, sunlight or privacy to neighbouring properties. The relationship to the rear properties, including Portman Gardens, has been sensitively considered, with the Council's own pre-application advice acknowledging that impacts would not be harmful to a degree that would justify refusal. Where appropriate, technical assessments have been provided to support these conclusions. The site is surrounded by mature vegetation and protected trees, and the proposal has been designed around these constraints, not in conflict with them. Tree retention and protection strategies have been developed. Landscaping has been used to assimilate the building into the green edge context, in line with the local plan policies. The openness to the front of the site has been preserved, including the removal of the previously proposed garage, to maintain spatial character and reduce the level of development sought on this site. This will also allow for the existing tree to be safeguarded through the construction of this proposal and the root protection zone to be maintained. The scheme incorporates renewable energy measures, including solar panels, consistent with the local and London plan policies. Matters relating to drainage, basement construction, biodiversity, net gain and technical details have been robustly assessed and, where necessary and capable of being appropriately controlled by planning conditions, which officers have already indicated is acceptable. In summary, this proposal fully reflects the Council's pre-application advice and officer feedback, responds constructively to previous refusals and withdrawals, delivers a high-quality replacement dwelling, preserves neighbouring amenity, respects the character and appearance of the area of special local character, and complies with the development plan where read as a whole, or when read as a whole. For these reasons, we respectfully submit that the application is policy compliant, well considered and deserving of approval. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Okay, does any councillors have any questions? Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for your speech. My question was just, the petitioner picks up a lot on around the basement and subsidence underpinning of other properties nearby. What's your view on that as the kind of agent?
Okay, so as
the planning officer made quite clear, construction is a building regulations matter and is a construction subject. I'll be quite honest, I'm actually more of a construction person myself. So the basement subsidence of neighbouring properties is going to, the subsidence of neighbouring properties is going to be high up on our list of things that we need to take into account when we are doing the construction. And rest assured, there will be the most competent structural engineers, civil engineers looking at this when it comes to construction. And I believe it's already been controlled by a condition that we need to submit so that the planning authority will be given further documentation to assess, which will then also be visible on the portal for other people to view as well, right? So rest assured, we will make sure that the construction is to the highest level and that we take that into consideration.
Councillor Chandel.
Thank you, Chair. I think Councillor Bennett's taken the question I was going to... But it does say in the report, and officers made the point as well quite clearly, that information on subsidence is not in the public domain. So they have to rely on information which your consultant, the applicant, has put forward. So my question is, if it's not made known public on public documents, will knocking on people's doors and asking them being the next sort of answer, and asking if you have any issues with subsidence? Because I get it, it's not planning, but it is a serious concern. Okay. So, going about what you've done with the officers, it's what people should do anyway. Talk to officers first of all. But in terms of all the information you're giving us, in terms of what kind of confidence we have in the information you put forward. So saying that it's not in the public domain, but surely knocking on doors and asking a question, would that not suffice?
Can I come in on that? Yeah, Chris, do you want... Yeah, please.
Thank you, and thank you for the question, Councillor. In terms of the planning process, there is a policy within the local plan, Part 2, which requires a set amount of information to be submitted, and that does include structural integrity. Now, there is a methodology within that document which outlines that the basement can be constructed without the impacts upon the structural integrity of neighbouring properties. If during the process that it becomes apparent that based on the methodology which would have been reviewed by a structural engineer, based on existing ground conditions, that there could be a potential for impact upon neighbouring properties, which the existing report says is not the case, then we would expect the building control surveyor, whether that be directly with the council or an improved inspector, to be able to have to put in some restrictions or the request for additional information upon what has been submitted already. But it's really important that we separate the planning process from the building regulations process. If we were to consider the potential here to refuse the application based on the fact that the applicant has not been able to obtain information which is not publicly available to them, we would have to be confident, and committee members would have to be confident, that the basement impact assessment is not robust and is incorrect. Now, also, we do have condition 8, which does require the strengthening of the basement impact assessment, more specifically around flooding, which could also have an impact upon structural integrity. So we recognise that there are elements of the basement impact assessment that could need strengthening, more so really on the flooding part, but also in terms of structural integrity. But officers are of the opinion that the documents that have been submitted to us do conform with the requirements of that condition, and therefore it would be unreasonable to refuse on that basis. Yep.
Is that okay, Councillor Chandel?
Thank you.
Yeah. Any more questions for the applicant? No. Thank you very much. Take a seat. Before I open it to the floor, Chris, would you come back on things that have been said on the petitioner and applicant that we can,
of course,
for committee members to make it clearer?
Thank you. I've scribbled some notes, so I'll try and hopefully take them in the order in which they were set.
I'm just going to wait on a minute because I see 3, not 1, but 3 Hillingdon East councillors in the audience Which one of you has got the honour to present? Councillor Bridges, would you like to come to the... I didn't see you there for a bit, but you're hiding at the back. You only have 3 minutes because you're used to speaking. So, you know the rules. I'll let you get on whenever you press the button.
Thank you. Chairman, members of the committee, thank you for the opportunity to speak. I wish to set out clear concerns that in my view mean this application does not meet the key requirements of the Hillingdon local plan, the London plan or indeed the national policy. Firstly, the scale and character. This is a backland site within the Hillingdon Court Park area of special local character. The proposed footprint is about 236 square metres, with an additional basement of roughly 292 square metres, and a ridged height of around 9.2 metres. Taken together, that represents a substantial increase over the existing dwelling and would appear over-dominant in this sensitive location. That conflicts with the local plan policies DMHB5, areas of special local character, DMHB11, design of new development, and DMHB12, streets and public realm, which expect new development to respect local character and the established pattern of development. Secondly is the effect on neighbours. The combined bulk and the accommodation in the roof introduce a third level of presence and raise reasonable concerns about the outlook, privacy and overshadowing, particularly for 43 Sweetcroft Lane and other nearby homes. Local planning policy DMHB11 requires that development does not harm neighbouring amenity. The committee report itself acknowledges the need to rely on tests like the 45-degree lines and daylight sunlight methodology, with sensitivities here at upper levels. Thirdly, the basement. Policy DMHD3 requires robust evidence that basements will not increase flood risk or compromise structural stability. The officer report notes inaccuracies and gaps in the assessment and has had to rely on conditions to secure an updated drainage strategy and structural safeguards. In a critical drainage area, deferring essentials such as basement drainage, groundwater control and structural measures to conditions does not provide the necessary certainty at decision stage and risks conflicts with DMHD3 and DMEI10 under water management efficiency and quality, as well as London Plan Policies SI 12 and 13 on flood risk and sustainable drainage. When taking into consideration trees and biodiversity, 2 trees are to be felled and further crown works undertaken. Whilst these are lower grade specimens, the scheme also concedes that on-site biodiversity net gain may fall short and seeks to fix this later by condition. That sits uneasily with DMHB 14 under trees and landscaping, and with the requirement to secure a genuine 10% biodiversity net gain for a deliverable plan, as now reflected in the conditions and narrative. Finally, Mr Chairman, construction, access and safety. Access is via a narrow drive between 45A and 49 Sweetcroft Lane and adjacent to a care home. The highways section proposes a construction management plan by condition. Given the tight geometry and the duration and intensity of basement works, there remains a risk of unacceptable disruption, contrary to local plans policy DMT1 and DMT2, which require impacts to be avoided or fully mitigated.
Thank you very much, Councillor Bridges. Thank you. Thank you. Your 3 minutes is up. Has anybody got any questions for Councillor Bridges? No, that's fine. You may take your seat, Councillor Bridges. Thank you. Does any other councillor wish to? No? That's fine. Lovely. Thank you. Okay, I haven't heard so many DMs and things for quite a while.
Yeah.
Do you want to, Chris, take us through what the applicant, petitioner and councillors have said? And
Yep. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you, councillor, as well. There are definitely elements of my report in that representation. I'll try and take these things in order. So, just in terms of footprint. Okay, I'll just work my way to. Sorry, we're not moving up. This drawing just here. So you'll notice the property on the right-hand side of the application property that benefited from a similar. That benefited from a similar consent to what's being applied for now. So that was for the demolition of the existing dwelling, and the proposal and the result of that consent is what you see now. So when we're talking about footprint, albeit the properties are orientated slightly different, the the application site itself has a similar footprint to the neighbouring property, and that is just the property that's directly next door. I'll go back to some of the photos in a moment, which do show a considerable amount of properties along Sweetcroft Lane itself, which have either a similar, if not slightly larger, footprint than what's being proposed now. If we are talking about scale, bulk and massing, I'll just draw members' attention to the two properties that were to be constructed on the adjacent site. Those properties had a height of approved at 9 metres. Yeah, so a de minimis increase on this site in comparison to the neighbouring site. So we've got adjacent height, which is almost comparable to the proposal here, and a footprint that is, I believe, to be comparable on the other side. Okay, so when we're looking at development on backland sites, we are looking for intensification as opposed to replacement. So whilst this may have the character of a backland site, it is not considered to be backland development. As such, it does not it does not intensify the residential use of the site. To intensify the residential use of the site, you would have to introduce a new property. So that would be an additional property to what is there at the moment. That does also tie into this point around access. Now, I'll come on to the use of the condition for construction access and construction activity in a moment. But just in terms of activity and the use of that long access road, that access road serves the existing property. You've seen that there are vehicles parked at the front of the existing dwelling which all have use of that long access. Now, just in terms of construction, the NPPF specifically states that where harm can be identified, but that harm, in which case would be normally unacceptable and warrant the refusal of an application, where the use of planning conditions could bring about a positive recommendation but secure the same level of mitigation to address the harm, that those conditions should be used, and that's set out within paragraph 56 of the NPPF. Okay, so the NPPF would, it forms part of the development plan. It's how the London plan bases its policies, and then it's how our local plan is also based. So if you're looking at a hierarchy of policy, that probably sits somewhere near the top. Okay, so if we were minded to refuse the application based on the fact that they haven't submitted a CMP up front, that would be in direct conflict with the NPPF. So when we're talking about harm to neighbouring properties, if I can just move slightly to this. So the properties which are being referred to are just to the north of the site itself. So if you look at number 51, for example, number 45A, that is 62 metres away from the front elevation. The existing front elevation is in the same location as the new front elevation. So in which case, the window-to-window distance is 61 metres. The local plan sets a separation distance of 21 metres. So whilst the existing property may be slightly lower in height, it's in the same location as the proposed property. It's 2 stories in height. It would have the same view of overlooking of any garden and the same view of overlooking of any neighbouring window. Okay, so it's really important to notice that. In terms of the care home, that is 43 metres window-to-window distance. Yeah. So again, the existing property is 2 stories, 43 metres away, and has the same level of overlooking that garden, which is the amenity space which serves the care home, as what the proposed dwelling would, albeit, yes, there is some accommodation to be placed in the roof. Okay? I think we've been through the points around the basement impact assessment. Just to respond to one of the points that the councillor raised about the inaccuracies within the report, I want to be quite clear in saying that the inaccuracies are based on the fact that throughout the consultation process, neighbours who took part in that process identified to us that there were reports of subsidence having been made to building control, which, as we've explained, are not available within the public domain. I did not feel, as the person writing this report and reviewing it, that I could explain that there were not inaccuracies in the report, because that wouldn't be factual. But I have been very clear in the report that those inaccuracies are caused by the fact that this information is not publicly available. I've also been very clear this evening in saying that in terms of planning permission, the 2 basement impact assessments that have been submitted conform with the requirements of the condition, albeit we are seeking enhancements to demonstrate that the drainage, particularly for the basement, would be robust. Okay, so it's just a strengthening condition as opposed to a condition that we're imposing because we don't have sufficient information to approve the development now. In terms of construction, I've explained that, you know, the existing access is already there. It will need to, the construction management plan will need to take into consideration frequency of movement, where those vehicles are coming from, where they're routed to, whether or not the access is deemed to be acceptable. In my mind, it would be. The access road itself is no shorter or less wide than the access road which served the neighbouring properties, which were also subject to redevelopment. In fact, the property directly to the right was not subject to a construction management plan, and that was successfully built out. So the fact that we're including it now, and in comparison to the condition which I checked on number 51, there is at least 6 additional items within that condition to show that since bringing these applications to planning committee, we have listened to members, we have listened to applicants, and we are placing significant restrictions on the type of information that we need to have in order to ensure that this development can be constructed, but any harm is minimised. I believe that's all of the concerns that were raised. Thank you, Chair.
Well done, Chris. Thank you for clearing that up. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chair. For me, this is all about precedent, and I know Sweetcroft Lane well. There's an awful lot of large houses along there, as we've seen in the presentation, with some that are bigger than what is proposed here. Also, if I think around my ward and the other roads, Blossom Way, Vine Grove, Vine Lane, that back onto Hillingdon Court Park, there are much bigger properties there within that kind of area of special local character. And I think, you know, whatever if this application was to be refused and it went to appeal, that is what the planning inspectorate will look at, is what's the precedent in the area. The plot sizes are very generous. As Chris just talked through, the distance from neighbouring properties quite substantial. So for me, there were only really 2 things that I think we have maybe to discuss, is maybe around the traffic management plan and the hours of operation and the hours of delivery, because the petitioner is right, it's a very, very narrow and congested road, particularly at peak hours. And then I think just to delve a little bit more into this basement piece, because we do see basements at committee, we don't get that many of them. And I think this is the first one where there's been concerns around subsidence and underpinning, as I think we could just talk through the process that has to be followed a little bit more with that.
No problem. Chris?
Yeah, thank you, Councillor, and thank you, Chair. Just in terms of the condition, so we've got condition 11. I think, that is pretty robust, and I think we need to just be mindful that we need to...
Can you put the road up, one with...
Yeah. The access, yeah?
Yeah, the access, not the picture, the actual plan.
The plan, okay, yeah.
the block plan that showed.
Yeah, so there's quite a few of them.
There we go.
There you go. So it's on the left-hand side.
So obviously we would like traffic to come rather this way up the road into it, rather than I don't think they'd be able to turn. Trucks will be able to turn.
That was going to be my question, Chair.
Okay.
Remind me, that was just the I suppose one around the timing of when movements can take place. So maybe it avoids the rush hour, but also having a left turn onto the kind of westerly direction of Sweetcroft Lane looks tight and difficult. You would, because it's on the kind of meander of the road.
Yeah.
Would you want the construction traffic heading to and from Long Lane?
It is in the report somewhere. I know I saw it, but Ed, do you want to take it up?
Yeah. So if you look at condition 11, one of the requirements of the details for the discharge of that condition is part C, the hours during which development works will occur. D is how vehicles will access the site whilst protecting neighbouring sites, and F is traffic management and access arrangements. So all of those are required. All those details are required through this condition.
Okay, Councillor Bennett.
The next thing was just around the basement. That was my other question.
The basic. We'll go. Chris, you want to...
Thank you. I'm sure I find it a little bit more difficult tonight to elaborate on what I've already said, but
as a committee, a long time ago, we had the first one, remember, and we were sort of like kept back on the back foot. And we came up with this policy to sort of secure that it was done in a proper way, that we didn't cause subsidence, it didn't cause these other things. I think us going into sort of like building control is going to be very difficult. Where we can go is about how we can make sure that that is robust in our conditions, which I think it is. But if there's something you want to add, Councillor Bennett, you're more than welcome to take it.
Sorry, I just want to be clear on what you're saying there, Chair. We just need to be mindful that whatever we're adding in, it does need to be able to be assessed by a planning professional as opposed to a building control engineer. Thank you.
Questions? No? Councillor Sensipuri.
Yeah. Thank you. As the report said, there are plenty of trees on the site. And I just want to know how they will be protected during the basement digging.
Yep, thank you for that, Councillor. So essentially, a lot of the trees that are on the existing site are not located within this specific area of where the existing property is. On this plan here, you'll see the outline. It's quite difficult to see, but there is a red outline on there. Okay. Now, most of the trees are actually located further within the garden. We've got a tree retention condition which requires all of those trees to be retained. So in the event that any of them have to be removed, then they would have to submit a variation to that condition to us in order to get approval to remove any additional trees. Okay, so I think in terms of protection, the protection is the tree retention condition. Yep, thank you.
Yes, okay.
Sorry, thank you, Chair. That reminded me of a point that Councillor Bridges raised regarding the loss of the 2 trees. Just to clarify, those are grade C trees, which is the lowest grade tree. So the loss of that scale is quite normal for a development of this nature. And as Chris has already explained, the BNG requirement, although slightly short, can be met on site, and that can be conditioned, and the framework encourages us to take that approach. Thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Thank you very much, Councillor. Yes, Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I've mentioned the 2 points before that I wanted clarity on. I think, you know, the 3-storey element, the property next door seems to be has built into the roof. We've spoken around the height of the buildings on the opposite side of being approved at just sort of 30 centimetres shy. The access road, as Chris said, that it's the same access road for the other properties that have also had similar construction. And I think, you know, if we're comfortable with the traffic management plan being robust with some of the feedback we've given today, and obviously the difference between the planning application and building control, I would be happy to approve the application in line with the officer's recommendation.
Thank you. So I have a proposer. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Burrows?
I second, Chairman, and based on what we've heard and officers' detail about the basement, etc., and the clarification as well on the movements during construction as well. So,
thank you very much. So I'm proposed and seconded. Can I show of hands all those in favour of this application, please? And have one abstain. So that's 4, 5, 6, and 1 abstention. That application has been approved. Thank you very much. If you wish to leave the building, can you leave the room quietly? We still have other items on the agenda to deal with. Okay, let's go. We'll go away now. Items without petition. Lovely, short and sweet applications.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman.
Yes, is number 7, Aerial Hotel.
I jumped the gun there because you said short and sweet, so...
Yeah, I didn't mean to say it with your...
Yeah, I didn't mean to overspeak here. Thank you, Chairman. When I get to the slide... Here we go. So, item 7 relates to an application for planning permission at the Aerial Hotel site in Bath Road. The application proposes the reconfiguration, alteration and extension of the existing hotel to provide 113 additional hotel rooms and the erection of a new apart hotel building on the north area of the car park comprising of 99 rooms. As noted in the description of development, apart hotels are included within the same use class as traditional hotels, which is use class C1. As such, despite the additional development proposed in the form of an apart hotel, there is no change of use proposed. I'll take you through some of the plans. Here's the location plan, constraints plan. The site is located within air quality management and focus area and also within flood zone 1. Here's a location plan with the site denoted within the red edge. Here you've got a site plan of the actual site indicating the existing ground floor, existing basement floor plan, ground floor plan, third floor plan, existing fourth floor plan, existing roof plan, and existing elevations. So the internal elevations are just the central section of the circular building. Here is the proposed site plan. You'll note that the circular shape of the building is retained and the apart hotel is shown to the north of the drawing in a rectangular shaped building. Here we have the proposed basement plan, proposed ground floor plan, first to third, 4th floor plan, 5th floor plan, roof plan, and proposed elevations. So you will note that there's an additional story to be proposed at the top of the building. The scale, bulk and massing is successfully broken up by the retained banding around the top, which effectively separates the lower ground rooms on the elevations from the upper ground floor extension. Proposed elevations again. Here are the internal proposed elevations. So just turning to the apart hotel, these units range from 28 square metres to 49 square metres and contains sleeping space, a bathroom and a small kitchenette. They are designed for occupation up to 90 days, and there is a condition proposed to be attached to the decision notice to restrict the length of stay. Here's the proposed first and second floor plan, proposed third floor plan, some proposed elevations. So in order to break up the bulk scale mass and the extent of what is quite a wide set of front and rear elevations, some projections have been proposed in the elevation, the use of alternating material palette and colour, as well as additional openings of varying size. Here are the side elevations showing the formal entrance to the building, proposed elevations. I'll take you through a few of the photos. So this is a bird's eye view. You can't miss the existing building. The new apart hotel is to be located in the northern section of the car park. You've got some residential development further north. We'll talk about that in a bit more in a moment. But in terms of like the character of the area, quite well, obviously it's got the airport to the south, but this whole area of Bath Road is characterised mainly by hotels and office space. So to the right hand side you'll see a slightly taller hotel. You'll be able to see the existing building is in need of refurbishment. So in terms of the refurbishment and the extension to facilitate that is welcomed. Here's just another image of street view, sort of side elevation, which is the road which is junction with Bath Road. So this is the location of the where the existing hotel is on the right, and then the new apart hotel will go on the left. You've got some residential properties to the far left there, which are just off Marlborough Crescent. Here is the side of the flatted block on Marlborough Crescent. The rear elevation of the flatted block on Marlborough Crescent, we'll come back to that slightly more in a moment, but this just gives you an understanding of what those residential blocks to the north of the site actually look like. So just in terms of the assessment, as we said, the refurbishment and the extension to the existing hotel are supported by the London Plan policy, which sets out that there is a need for enhancement and additional visitor accommodation to fulfil a need. Whilst a sequential test has been undertaken, this is an existing hotel site. So just in terms of impact, there has been a daylight and sunlight assessment undertaken, which assessed 108 windows within the elevations and the blocks to the north, which are on the right hand side of this photo. Those blocks are approximately, I believe, 18.3 metres away from the rear elevation, which does have windows serving the apart hotel rooms. Whilst that doesn't meet the 21 metre separation distance, it is common practice to apply some flexibility to that 21 metre separation distance where there is a road in the middle, and that's generally because not all roads anywhere have been designed with a 21 metre separation distance. Therefore, applying that stringently where there is a road in between could be viewed negatively at appeal. So just in terms of the actual assessment of the daylight and sunlight itself, out of 108 of the rooms windows which were assessed, 6 of the ground floor windows which were in this block to the right hand side were found to fall marginally below the BRE guidance for vertical sky component. That's one of 2 tests which are normally applied to daylight and sunlight levels. However, given the context of the GLA's own guidance on daylight and sunlight, anything that is 20% in terms of has a VSE value of more than 20% is generally expected to have reasonably good levels of light, daylight and sunlight, that is, particularly in urban environments. So although the 6 rooms fall slightly short of the BRE guidance for VSE, the VSE values are between 23 and 25%, which means they're above what the GLA considered to be reasonably good within an urban context, which is what this is. In terms of the BRE guidance itself, it is guidance. Within Appendix H, it classifies impacts affecting a small number of windows out of those tested that are outside of the guidance to be considered to be minor adverse. So where you've got a limited number of windows which do not meet the relevant BRE guidance, it's viewed within the context of the overall number of windows which have been tested. If there is only a small number that haven't met the guidance, that's considered to be relatively minor, adverse and not significant. Not significant being the threshold which you would want to be refusing a planning application on. So taking those points into consideration, a reason for refusal relating to the reduction of daylight, given that it's only a very small shortfall and 6 of the 108 rooms that have been tested, it would not be considered to be reasonable or defendable. The proposal would have 55 on-site car parking spaces, which is a reduction of 63 spaces from the 118 on-site at present. That isn't an insignificant number, but upon consultation with the local highway authority, that is considered to be acceptable and meeting the London Plan requirements. As such, no objection has been raised. Subject to the imposition of a car parking design and management plan, as well as a financial contribution towards healthy streets, active travel zone improvements, and that's to be secured within the heads of terms set out within the committee report and soon to be a legal agreement. One of the scheme's enhancements that are due to be brought forward outside of that mitigation is also landscaping enhancements. You'll see the images of the existing car park very heavily dominated by hard surfacing, in which case the landscaping scheme that's to be secured by condition would be an enhancement to the existing situation. Based on these points and those set out in a lot of detail within the committee report, the application is recommended for approval subject to mitigation and enhancements within to be secured by condition and legal agreement. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Chris. Only one point I'd like you to add is about the building at the back, about the stay. Yeah. So there is during the process, this was discussed multiple times and at great length with the applicant. So as presented, the applicant for the apart hotel is the same operator as the hotel. So it's not like we're introducing a new hotel onto the site in as far as that's concerned. We do have a condition. If you give me a moment, I'll tell you which one it is. So we've got a condition which is condition 23, which restricts the length of stay for the apart hotel. So if you members would want to have a look at condition 23, we've worked quite hard with the planning enforcement team to ensure that that's robust and could be enforced. There is also the burden of reporting length of stay is also being placed on the applicant. So the council would not have the burden of having to check, actually stand and observe visitor check-in, check-out. So that burden is placed on them, and I think we've learned from previous applications for apart hotels on that. So we're trying to learn a lesson from the previous application that came before committee. Absolutely brilliant. Well done. Okay, I open it straight to the floor. Councillor Chandel.
Thank you, Chair. It looks like a very good proposal that we're updating a 1960s building and then enhancing a few more Lego blocks here, a few more Lego blocks there. But my question is going to be on the parking. It does say, depend on each site, it's a significant drop in the number of parking. But has anything been given or forwarded so we can look at or even discuss as what the current parking situation is in the airport? Because if you look at that, funny enough, that photograph there, we have the potential of a vehicle to be there for 90 days. I don't know whether it's controlled parking there, but exactly, no, the photo that was on the screen. Yeah. Now, if it's full,
that's not on site.
No, I mean, if you haven't got enough parking on site, somebody's going to park off site. So I'm saying the potential for that to happen, and there are various other bits and pieces doesn't meet policy, but it's all minor. There's 6 windows. It's almost like if you're in a football match, put VAR on, but I don't want to wait another 2 hours listening to that. If you could have an explanation for that, otherwise, apart from that, I'm quite happy to go with the officer's recommendation.
Thank you very much. Okay, Chris, do you want to?
Yeah, I can see Alan will probably want to come in on this, but I think we can see the faint outline of a yellow line there, so I would have thought that would have been an element of parking control. Oh, well, it was there. It was there. I'll hand over to Alan in a moment, but just a key point that the London Plan's advocating for a reduction in car use. The site is reasonably located within a close distance of bus stop. So yeah, I understand the point. I think it's probably best I hand over to the specialist. Alan, do you want to take that?
Thank you very much, Chris. Thank you, Chairman. We have asked for a car parking design and management plan, and within that document we would want information on how are the 55 car parking spaces going to be managed, and I would expect that plan to say, well, people booking a stay at the hotel will be made aware that car parking's limited and they would need to make other arrangements, such as arriving by public transport, making the last trip of the journey by taxi, parking in one of the many airport car parking spaces, and then by the fact that the surrounding streets are governed by parking restrictions, displacement would be controlled, and you've got fewer cars therefore going onto the Bath Road, which we already know reaches saturation at peak times.
Thank you very much, Dr. Tilley. Sorry, if it does.
No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Not at all. I just thought some other good news that given that the development has got limited car parking, we have managed to secure a active travel zone healthy streets contribution of £112,000.
That can't be bad.
That was credit to the planners who actually do the last mile with all of that work.
Excellent team. Councillor Bennett.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I mean, I find the applications of the apart hotel element a little odd. Nothing to do with planning, but by an airport where most people just stay 1 or 2 nights in between flights or ahead of their flight, to have apartments where there's kind of kitchenettes and no supermarkets nearby, it feels a little odd, but that's not legitimate reason to refuse the application, so I'd be happy to second the approval.
Thank you. Councillor Sainsbury.
Does Section 106 secure local jobs and training or apprenticeship?
Yeah, if you just give me one moment, I'm just going to double check the heads of terms. I've got them here in front of me. We would normally secure, an employment strategy. It's on page 64 of the committee report. Yep, thank you.
Thank you. So I've been proposed and seconded. Those show of hands, those in favour of the application. Though unanimous. Thank you very much. That's been approved. Thank you very much. And as it hands over to Owen for his, the computer and the screen goes down again. Item 8.
The slide's still on there. Do you need a member of the IT team to sit there permanently on the panel?
Have a vision of what slide 1 is.
I have to get the slide.
For my mark. So, the services role now is IT. I would have thought you were an extension of the hotel. Direct link to the hotel and link up on there, isn't it?
Yeah, that's what we tried for. Didn't work.
You can see that one, haven't you? Yeah. There you go. So, don't worry about it. We've got both on now, so you have a choice now. Stereo.
Earlier on they were moving without me touching. question. Didn't work it out. Yeah, move it.
Right, so we're going to do item 8, which is 8284 High Street, Ruislip.
Thank you, Chair. Item 8 seeks planning permission for 5 number self-contained flats and uplift of 4 with associated cycle and bin storage following the change of use of office and erection of 2-storey rear extension on alterations to the rear of the building. I would draw members' attention to the addendum to this report, and the item is presented at committee due to a member call-in. So as you can see here, is the site is a corner plot on Ruislip High Street, adjacent to Ickenham Road. To the west of the site is a public car park. You have 80 High Road to the north and 2 Ickenham Road to the south, as well as a larger flat development further south, Thomas More building. So here's the constraints of the site. The site is a locally listed building, mixed commercial at ground and first with existing flat at second floor. It also lies within a primary shopping area within Ruislip Town Centre and Ruislip Conservation Area. Again, you have the location plan and a bird's eye view. Just also to make members aware, this item is a resubmission on a previous refused application which was dismissed at appeal. I will go through that later in the presentation. So here is your existing floor plans. So you have on the left the commercial on left, and the first 2 images are commercial office space. The first floor is also office, and as you can see at the back there's an existing outbuilding which will be converted to a 1-bed unit, and then on the top floor is an existing residential unit. So here is the existing elevation sections, and you can see the grand facades at the top left, the rear elevation middle left, and the rear building on the bottom left, and then you can see on the bottom right the existing section of the site, and again the flank elevation middle right and other flank on the top right. So here is the proposed floor plans. It will comprise an additional 4 1-bed units. So altogether it'll be a 5-unit scheme. You'll have 1 unit to the rear of the site and 2 on the first and second floors. And here is the elevation. So basically it involves a small infill extension to the rear outbuilding. If you can see on the top right hand image, you see the red dotted line that indicates the existing building, and it's a small infill of that section. And then on the main building itself, again on the top right image, you see the extent of the extension at first and second floor. Now, just to point out, this was at appeal, and the inspectorate raised no concerns regarding both these elements of design. In terms of the outcome, the inspector said, given its location to the rear of the property, it was largely sympathetic to the design of the building. So that is a material consideration in terms of our design review and assessment. So I think what is useful is to just show you a few images of what it would look like. So you can see the application site is highlighted there on the image there, and in the centre right is the actual existing building as well that is within the site at the back of the main building. So you see the terrace serving that new one-bed unit. And again, I suppose here's a CGI image showing the two-storey extension aligning with number 80 High Street. In our initial refusal, we had raised concerns regarding the impact on the neighbour at number 80 High Street. Now, the inspectorate had agreed, due to the size of the terrace previously, which had a fencing that was to be located on the common boundary with that neighbour. This fencing has now been set in from it, and you can see there's approximately 2 metres in from that neighbour at 80 High Street. On that basis, the tunnelling effect has been completely reduced from the original appeal decision. Again, you get an idea here, the CGI image of the outdoor communal terrace space associated with the 4 flats, and you also see the edge or the rear building in the bottom right hand corner. And here is the amenity space served by the flat 3, which is located on the back building. A key point to raise also in terms of the appeal decision is flat 3 was considered of poor overall quality in the original application. There has been significant modifications to this flat. You now have a flank window adjacent to the Thomas More building, and you have a secondary window facing out onto the car park. This provides a dual aspect arrangement for that flat. The bedroom for that flat is also access to the terrace, as you can see there on that image. So the next slide just gives you a few visuals showing the dual aspect changes. Previously, the inspectorate had raised concerns about outlook. However, the fenestration was facing onto the main building rather than out onto the car park, and as you can see here, there is a level of outlook, and we feel that is acceptable in terms of the flat 3. And that's the view from the outlook from the bedroom. Whilst there will be screening, which we have conditioned, there is still a notable outlook to the right of that site. So I'll just go through a few of the photos. So you have the aerial. I've highlighted the building itself and the back building with X's, and then you have the main facade to on the bottom image. There's limited changes to the front of the property. We do have a condition attached to a replacement door, which has been agreed by the applicant. Again, here is the main rear elevation and the relationship with 80 High Street on the left and number 2 Ickenham Road on the right. There is a communal terrace serving the 4 one-bed flats. Now, whilst it is not a private amenity space, we have conditions attached ensuring the screening is installed, and details of that shall be submitted prior to use. we also are also aware there is parks nearby within 5 minutes walking distance. Given the nature of the flats, they're one-bed flats. We feel unbalanced in this town centre location. The communal terrace is acceptable in this instance. And this is just to give you an idea, the Thomas More building and the lane between the existing building and the application site. And again, you have an image there of the existing building. So the infill section will be on the right image where that lantern roof is, and it'll just bring square off that building, which again is considered acceptable from a design perspective. And I suppose this gives you an idea of the neighbour at 80 High Street, and just to give you an idea of the separation from that window and the fencing, it is approximately 2 metres or thereabouts, so that reduces the impact on that bedroom window for that 80 High Street. Okay, so in terms of design, officers are satisfied that given the appeal decision, the development would not harm the locally listed building or the character and appearance of the conservation area. With respect to neighbours' amenity, particularly 80A, the revised plans have introduced a greater setback of the boundary fence and alterations to the fenestration, which significantly improves the relationship between the new development and the existing homes. The set-in ensures that there be no longer a loss of outlook or tunnelling effect on 80A. Proposed works, the proposal would not result in unacceptable harm to the privacy, outlook, daylight, sunlight or enclosure to neighbouring properties. A daylight sunlight assessment had been carried out and passed BRE guidance. In terms of the standards of accommodation, the outlook and standard of accommodation for flat 3 has now been improved significantly from the original appeal. This flat will provide a dual aspect living space, improved outlook, daylight with access to private amenity space, which would be screened from the residents of Thomas More flats. The remaining flats are considered acceptable by the inspector. As a result, all units now meet the relevant London Plan internal space standards. Whilst we acknowledge the private amenity space provision is below the policy requirement, it is noted the current scheme now provides a better quality communal terrace area than the original appeal decision. Given the town centre location and the housing mix of one beds, and the location of a park in close proximity, Churchfield Gardens, this communal terrace is considered acceptable. The scheme in terms of transport would be car-free, and the preservation of the ground floor commercial unit means that there will be continued active frontage and town centre vitality. On that basis, officers have recommended approval subject to conditions. Thank you.
Thank you, Owen. Okay, Councillor Chandell. Thank you, Chair. Going by, it's a shame this developer didn't talk to the officers first of all, like the previous development, and go through everything. Look, it's gone to the inspector. Inspector's come back and said, look, this is okay, this is not okay. They seem to have ticked the boxes. I note still on point 7.9 that our conservation officer objects to the two-storey building, but a power higher than him has decided it's okay. Going along with all the conditions that have been set out by the officers, a very good report. I really can't see anything wrong, and especially saying on my part that it's good retail space, and that's not going to be affected, I think, which is good for Ruislip High Street, which I know very well. I am happy to go with the officer's recommendation. Thank you. Councillor Bennett?
Thank you, Chair. I am happy to second the approval. Just one quick question. Was there a written statement from the ward councillor who called this in?
No, there wasn't.
And I don't know whether this sits with officers or with you as chair or democratic services.
I've already had words with the democratic services.
Delegated approvals are there for a reason, and if a ward councillor wants to call it into committee, I think they should be able to back that up with a reason as to why.
Either be present or send us some written confirmation. Would have been nice. I think it'd be polite, but
I could mention the points that the member raised. Raised concerns about amenity, overdevelopment, and the private amenity space for the flats.
Okay. So we did have something, but it went to the planning department rather than to yourself. So next time, can we make sure that you? Sorry, Ed, do you want to?
Sorry, this was under the original submission. The ward councillor submitted. However, they didn't follow up with written statement.
I'll take this offline and I'll sort it out with democratic services. Can get Mark to give me a ring tomorrow. Yeah. Okay, so I'm proposed and seconded. Can I have show of hands those in favour of this application? All in favour? That's approved. Owen, your next one is number 9.
The next item is brought forward to committee due to council interest in the car park. It involves Waitrose commercial superstore. In terms of objections received, there was one comment received during the application raising concerns just on the actual delivery service. In general, the site is on the south of King's End with access via West End Road. The proposal involves a delivery hatch service. In terms of constraints, it is within Ruislip Conservation Area and also within the town centre primary shopping area. The nearest residential property is located to the north, 11 Kings End Road, which is approximately 40 metres away from the delivery hatch. So it is a very minor development in terms of it's a fenestration change to the shop front. There's 2 red lines there. One represents a delivery space for delivery drivers in the car park, and the red line on the top right is related to the actual fenestration change to the building itself. So it is quite minor, this development in terms of scale. We have no objections from our design team. So you'll probably see it here. If you see it in blue, so it's a little delivery hatch that would be used by delivery drivers. Overall, design-wise, we're comfortable with the changes. Our highways team has no objections. They've put a number of conditions, and officers have also added an operations management plan secured by or by condition prior to use. So that's all. Thank you.
Councillor Bennett and then Councillor Chantal.
Thank you, Chair. It's quite a creative way to get around the Sunday Trading Act, isn't it, in terms of the store's open but it's not open. But I thought this was quite good, and I wish other supermarkets would take this on board, that the rise in Deliveroo, Justy, Uber Eats, all of that when you go to a lot of supermarkets now, the front entrance is congested with motorbikes and people with rucksacks, and this is a good way of kind of moving with the times in the best interest of everyone. So I'd be happy to approve the application in line with officer's recommendation.
Thank you very much. Councillor Chandel.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to confirm that it doesn't affect any of the parking spaces which are in front, which are for disabled or not as able. I just want to confirm that. Apart from that, it's a very good car park, plenty of room, one way in, one way out. So I would be more than happy to second it. But could you just confirm that it's not taking any parking spaces away?
Yeah, no. If you see where the blue car there is, that's an able-bodied parking space. So them 2 spaces will be for the delivery space. So disabled parking would be retained.
Sorry, if you see that red...
if you see the blue car...
No, I'm saying the red car. See the red car?
Yeah.
There's parking spaces there also. My wife uses that waitress twice a day, I think.
No, what we're saying is that it only is accessed by foot to the window.
Right.
No scooters can go down there. They have to park where that blue and that black car is. Yeah.
The dedicated parking spaces where that blue car is.
Is that okay? Sorry. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Gohill.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm how confident officers were about the operational management plan, in particular in relation to any ASB caused by delivery drivers in particular. I know some different sites, but sites along Ruislip High Street currently have an issue with I think it's tobacco spitting at the moment and rubbish being left on site by delivery drivers. We don't particularly want to see the same issue crop up here. I was wondering if that's sort of been addressed or picked up at all.
Yeah, we did put quite a detailed condition on the operational management plan. So this detail requires to be submitted prior to the operation of the use, and it also includes how Waitrose intend to monitor how delivery drivers and what is the process of complaints and so forth. So we have been quite thorough in terms of the condition, and we also had to consider the reasonableness of the condition as well. Obviously, it's tricky with third-party drivers, but once we have the detail, one of the issues we also have highlighted is prevention of shortcuts by drivers and so forth. So, on the basis of the detail to be submitted, we'll thoroughly go through it.
Councillor Gohill?
Thank you. Based on that response, and actually based on the application, again, I agree with Councillor Bennett. I think it's a great idea. I'd be happy to second officers' recommendations.
Yeah, it's already been seconded, but thank you very much anyway. So we have a proposal and a second. Can we have a show of hands, those in favour? That's unanimous. That's been passed. Thank you very much. Thank you everybody this evening, councillors and officers, for your time, and I hope you have a safe journey home. Thank you very much.